Hello everyone, it's me Roger Aladdin Daltrey, and today I'm doing you another tribute video. This time I'm going to be doing you a 5-year anniversary tribute for Lou Reed, who died this day 5 years ago. And I've done a lot of the reviewing of his solo albums, some of the original album classics and series box sets that I had unboxed for you already. So what I thought I would do this time is do the Velvet Underground, because I've never done videos on them before. So, yeah. And as a matter of fact, it was this day 2 years ago when I did the Lou Reed Original Album Classics Volume 2 with the albums Rock and Roll Animal, Rock and Roll Heart, Street Hassle, The Bells, and Growing Up in Public. And I mentioned in that video that when I found out about Lou Reed's death, it was on the 9 o'clock news on this day in 2013. And it was just after the X Factor had been on as well, and it was just shortly after the X Factor was on in their 10th season, and now they're in the 15th season already, and that is the third consecutive X Factor show I never watched, because I lost interest in the X Factor when one of my favorite best looking celebrities came onto it. I'll save that for a different video, but because I don't want to mention it now, but since we're doing a 5-year anniversary tribute today, we can save all that stuff for a different video in the forthcoming future. And of course, I have yet to do the Lou Reed albums ranked from worst to best, and I'm going to be doing one on Leonard Cohen shortly, so stay tuned for that video. So anyway, without further ado, let's get cracking in. So to do the Velvet Underground albums, so in 1967, we have the Velvet Underground and Nico by the Velvet Underground. This is their debut album from 1967, and I love the banana on the front. It's very famous. And it was produced by Andy Warhol. And this is one of my favourite 60s debut albums of all time. The other ones for me include the following: the self-titled debut of Bob Dylan, Booker T and the MG's Green Onions, the Beatles' Please Please Me, the Rolling Stones, England's Newest Hitmakers, the debut album of the Kinks, Simon and Garfunkel, Wednesday Morning 3 AM, Aladdin, Homer, Shrek and Wallace, My Generation, the self-titled debut of the Small Faces, and Davy Jones, and of course the Monkees, the Paul Simon Songbook. Did I say the self-titled debut of Small Faces? Yeah, I think I did. But if I didn't, I'll mention it now. The self-titled debut of Small Faces. What else? This album, of course. Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? Songs of Leonard Cohen, obviously. The band, music from Big Pink. And maybe the debut album of Led Zeppelin. And of course, the self-titled debut of Creedence Clearwater Revival. I mean, Creedence Clearwater Revival, one of the greatest artists of all time. And John Fogerty on his own is not so bad either. And then, of course, we're down to this record as one of my favourites. And then if you want to, and then over here we have a picture of the band, and then we can see Nico down there as well, who is a German singer. She has a very good voice actually, and she sings on 3 of these songs on this album. I'll tell you which ones they are when I tell you the songs. So anyway, I think Sunday Morning is a very good song, and it's a very angelic song as well. And the title Sunday Morning, if we want to just take out morning, put it Sunday, we can have something like Sunday Girl, which is a song title by Blondie on 1978's Parallel Lines, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. Oh my god. How time has flown for such a classic album. And the Sunday Girl had ripped off the Ramones song Beat on the Brat from their 1976 self-titled debut, and that's one of my favourite 70s debut albums, along with the following: The Faces' First Step, John Lennon Plastic Ono Band, Paul McCartney, ZZ Top's first album, the debut albums of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Roxy Music, Blue Oyster Cult, Aerosmith, Kiss, Bad Company. What else? The self-titled debut of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Foreigner, The Cars, Van Halen, The Police Outland Us to More, and quite possibly Joy Division, Unknown Pleasures, and maybe the debut album of The Clash, and maybe in the future, Elvis Costello, My Aim Is True. And yeah, there's a lot of other good classic 70s debut albums, but they're the main ones I can think of at the moment. Oh yeah, the self-titled debut of Queen, Aladdin's 1973 self-titled album with the Leo Sayer as a one-man band and Giving It All Away, and of course Leo Sayer Silverbird, and then Homer Simpson, Who Came First, Shrek, Smash Your Head Against the Wall, Wallace, Two Sides of the Wall, which is basically the same of Two Sides of the Moon, the 1978 solo Kiss albums of Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley, and Gene and Peter are good, but they're not as good as Paul and Ace's. And of course, the self-titled debut of Peter Gabriel. Ah yes, Peter Gabriel. A fantastic songwriter and singer. And I think there's other ones as well. Oh yeah, and the self-titled debut of the Eagles as well. And maybe Rush's debut album as well. And perhaps Talking Heads 77 and John Fogerty's 1973 self-titled. John Fogerty's The Blue Ridge Rangers. And before I move on to this album even, I'm going to just check if there's any more 70s debut albums I can think of before we carry on. Nope, we can carry on now. So anyway, Sunday Morning is a great song, and then to keep morning, we could have something like Monday Morning, which is basically the next morning. Sunday morning, then Monday Morning. And Monday Morning is a song titled by Fleetwood Mac on their 1975 self-titled album, which is known as the White Album, and it was also the same for the Beatles as well, because the Beatles' White Album is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and in fact, the 50th anniversary deluxe box set is coming out shortly. And then of course there's the 55th anniversary of With the Beatles, which came out on the same day as the White Album 5 years earlier. And now we're doing a 5-year anniversary for Lou Reed as well, so kind of similar thing. Lou Reed died in 2013, and then now we're doing a 50th anniversary for him with the Velvet Underground this time. And then with the Sunday Morning, we could have something like you're really saying Sunny Morning as well. And it's a song titled by Booker T and the MGs from their 1971 record Melting Pot. Oh yeah, and another favourite 70s debut album, I forgot about that one, Booker T. Jones, Evergreen. And there's a couple of other ones as well. And then with Morning in there, we could have maybe something like Morning Morgantown, and it's a song titled by Joni Mitchell from 1970's Ladies of the Canyon. And there's a couple of other ones as well, because I think Joni Mitchell's a great singer as well. And then other ones with morning in it, we could have Meet Me in the Morning, a song titled by Bob Dylan on 1975's Blood on the Tracks. Oh yes. Oh yeah, sorry, before I carry on, I forgot to mention another one of my favourite 70s debut albums there. Brian Ferry, These Foolish Things. God, how could I forget that? So anyway, what else do we have on here with morning in there? So we had Meet Me in the Morning by Bob Dylan, as I said. And maybe... I can't remember anything else with morning in it, but I'll let you know in the future. Oh yeah, I forgot. Morning Glory, as in... Yeah, Morning Glory, a song titled by Leonard Cohen from 2004's Dear Heather. And then, of course, What's the Story, Morning Glory? A song title and album title by Oasis. Their biggest selling album with that hit single and Wonderwall, Don't Look Back in Anger, and Champagne Supernova. I mean, Oasis, one of the greatest artists of all time. They're definitely my favourite 90s band of all time. And definitely my favourite Britpop band. Because recently, Noel Gallagher has now been added into my list of music heroes. So if I'm ever referencing music heroes again, Noel Gallagher will be mentioned in that. Sorry, Liam. So anyway, Sunday Morning is a great song. I think it was played in advertisements as well, because I heard the music being played because I heard the music in that song being played in advertisements as well, which I can't remember if I did, but the music was very familiar. So anyway, Sunday Morning, great song, I love it. Then we have I'm Waiting for the Man, which is a very good beat up song. It's a very garage rock kind of song. It kind of gives me the vibe to the Kinks song You Really Got Me from their 1964 self-titled debut, which is one of my favourite 60s Saber albums, along with this album and everything else I've mentioned. And then of course Van Halen covering that on their 1978 self-titled debut, which celebrated its 40th anniversary this year, and one of my favourite 70s debut albums, along with everything else I've mentioned. And maybe another favourite 70s debut album for me could be Lou Reed's debut album. I forgot about that one. And quite possibly the first solo album of Art Garfunkel. So anyway, We're Waiting for the Man, it's a very good song, and Waiting for the Man could be nearly like saying Waiting for the Hurricane. And it's a song titled by Chris de Burgh. And I do think Chris de Burgh is one of the greatest singers of all time. And he has a very fantastic range. And with him having a fantastic range, it's extraordinary talent. And then with Waiting, we could have... Well, first of all, with I'm Waiting, we could have... It's nearly like saying I Am Waiting. And it's a song titled by the Rolling Stones from their 1966 record, Aftermath. And then with Waiting for the Man, we could maybe say Waiting for the Miracle, a song titled by Leonard Cohen on 1992's The Future. And quite possibly Waiting for the Right Time by Barclay James Harvest from 1983's Ring of Changes. And that album had celebrated its 35th anniversary this year, and boy, Ring of Changes is such a powerful album, and definitely one of the most talented albums ever of all time. Like, the music on it is so talented. When you hear songs like 50's Child, I mean, that is such an extraordinary, talented, magnificent song. And with Waiting for the Man, do you just want to keep man there, we could have something like I'm Your Man, a song and album titled by Leonard Cohen from 1988, celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. And then if you swap the man around, you could have maybe like, and then put online there, we have Man on the Line, an album titled by Chris de Burgh. And I'm going to give a big shout out now to my uncle, who was born on the exact same day as John Bon Jovi. For him, that would be known as the penultimate Chris de Burgh album that he would have interest in, because the final album would be Into the Light with Lady in Red, and then after that, he lost all interest in them, so as a result, 1988's Flying Colours turned out to be the first album at which he would have no interest in Chris de Burgh's music. And then with other ones with The Man in there, we can have something like The Man in Me, and it's a song titled by Bob Dylan on 1970's New Morning. And now there's another reference there for Sunday Morning, New Morning by Bob Dylan. And I think it's one of his best albums, in my opinion. And we could have something like The Man in Black, which is the nickname of Johnny Cash. Oh yeah, Johnny Cash, one of the greatest singers of all time. And this year was the 15th anniversary of his death in September time, as well as June Carter Cash, his wife. And what other ones do we have in here with the man? Oh yeah, the Man in a Box by Alice in Chains. And there's loads of other ones in there as well. And then with Waiting, we could have The Waiting, a song titled by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers on 1981's Hard Promises, which is a great song. And there's a lot of other ones with Waiting there as well. And yeah, Waiting for the Man, excellent song. I like it. The next one is Femme Fatale. And it's the one with Nico singing it. That's the first one of three with Nico in it. And she is a very good singer. And she has an alto type of voice. And she is kind of in the same league in my mind as Christine McVie from Fleetwood Mac. And of course, Tanita Tikaram. With the same kind of alto voices. And you know, Tanita Tikaram, one of the greatest singers of all time in my opinion. She's just magnificent. Nico was magnificent as well. And Nico died very tragically in my opinion. She basically fell off her bike when she was cycling. Then she was found unconscious. Then, and this year is the 30th anniversary of her death. And yeah, Femme Fatale is just a great song. I like it. The next one is Venus and Furs, and it's a similar title of Venus and Mars. And it's an album title by Paul McCartney and Wings. Definitely one of the greatest bands of all time, and soon Paul McCartney is releasing archive collections of Wildlife and Red Rose, known as Red Rose Speedway. And basically, the cover is basically Paul McCartney with a rose in his mouth, which makes it very funny. A very funny album cover there, Paul. And by the way, Lou Reed, in my opinion, even looks like Paul McCartney. Because there was a photo of Lou Reed in the 60s I saw, and it looked a lot like Paul McCartney, in my opinion. And Venus is the name of a planet in our solar system. And basically, Venus, like Venus Simpson, which is a famous tennis player, and the sister of Serena Williams. And they're both professional tennis players. I think they're excellent. And they both appeared in a Simpsons episode as well. I forget the name of the episode, but it was in season 12 in 2000, where Homer picked one of the tennis players to play with. Once again, Homer is the man on the guitar. And what I like most of the music in Venus and Furs is that it's very haunting in my mind, and Lou Reed, and the opening lyrics are shiny, shiny boots of leather, and it's basically the same of boots of Spanish leather. And it's a song titled by Bob Dylan from 1964's The Times They Are A-Changing. So yeah, Venus and Furs, love that song. I think Lou Reed played it live as well, and he also did Waiting for the Man as well. I don't think he did the other two songs. And there goes my telephone. Then we have Run Run Run, which I think is another great song as well. And Run 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 is also a song title by Aladdin, Homer, Shrek and Wallace from 1966's A Quick One. And it has one of Aladdin's best vocals in my mind. The way he sings it is so brilliant. Because once again, Aladdin is the man. The best musician, best character, and the best TV show ever of all time. And the movies, being the best movies of all time. And then with Run Run Run, we could have something like Run. If you keep two runs there, we could have Run Devil Run, which is also an album title by Paul McCartney. I forget what year it came out. I think it was in the 90s or else early 2001. I think 2001 was Driving Rain. But anyway, Run 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 is great, and basically, yeah, it's just a great song, that one. Then we have All Tomorrow's Parties, which is my favourite of the three Nico songs on here, and she sings it brilliantly. And with Tomorrow there on its own, it's a song titled by these artists, by Paul McCartney on 1971's Wildlife, a song titled by U2 on 1981's October, by Leo Sayer on 1973's Silverbird, which again, one of my favourite 70s debut albums and Lou Reed's debut record, and all the other 70s debut albums I mentioned, and Tomorrow, a song titled by Kiss from 1980's Unmasked. And I mentioned before that it was considered by many to be the best track on that album besides Shandy. And yeah, and then with All in there, we can have something like All in a Mouse's Night, a song titled by Genesis on 1976's Wind and Wuthering, which is kind of 1977 really, because the album came out in December of 1976, as well as the Eagles' Hotel California. And yeah, All Tomorrow's Parties, really good song. So then we flip the vinyl over, or we continue on CD, and we have Heroin, which is an excellent song, and Lou Reed definitely played it live, and even Lou Reed has a song called The Heroin on 1982's The Blue Mask, which is in the Volume 3 box set, which is this pink one right here. And yeah, Heroin is just a great song, even though it is a drug, and heroin is also the name of a female hero. Like, obviously, the best female hero, Jasmine, because remember, when you look at Jasmine, you've seen perfection, and then, what do you do after that? Yeah, don't ask anymore. We know the answer. We all know Jasmine is the best of women. But anyway, Heroin, great song. Then we have There She Goes Again, and Lou Reed sounds like Bob Dylan during the Highway 61, Bring It All Back Home, and Blonde on Blonde era with his voice. And She on its own is a song titled by the following, by Green Day on 1994's Ducky, and by Kiss on 1975's Dressed to Kill, which was demoed in the Wicked Lester days by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. And She is also an album title by Davy Jones, the last one before his tragic death in 2012. And yeah, I just like the song a lot. I like the harmony vocals for the "There she goes again, there she goes." They just say "there she goes" all over again. That's what I like about the song. It's great. Then the final Nico track is "I'll Be Your Mirror," which is probably my second favourite after All Tomorrow's Party. So as a result, Femme Fatale is my least favourite from Nico. But it's still a good song. So "I'll Be Your Mirror" is a beautiful song. I like the guitar playing by Sterling Morrison. And I like Nico's vocals. And I like Maureen Tucker's tambourine. And then with "I'll Be Your Mirror," it's a bit like saying "I'll be there," as in I will be there. And it's a song titled by Kiss on 1997's Carnival of Souls, which was about Paul Stanley's son called Evan. Because I think he had his first son at the time with Pamela Bowen, but now he's married to Erin Sutton. And with "Mirror," we could have something like "In the Mirror," which is a song, which is also a Kiss song from Carnival of Souls. And then with "Mirrors," we can then have "Mirrors," the album title by Blue Oyster Cult from 1979. And there's a couple of other ones with that same title as well, but I mean, "I'll Be Your Mirror," great song. Then we have my least favourite, and then these last two tracks on here are my least favourites. We have the Black Angels Deaf song, which is a bit annoying because I hate the violin sound by, or viola sound by John Cale, and I also hate the hissing sound as well. And with Black Angel, it's like saying "Sweet Black Angel," a song titled by the Rolling Stones on 1972's Exile on Main Street. And it was ranked as the 7th best album by Rolling Stone, calling it their highest double album of all time. And with Black Angels, we can have Fallen there, we can get Fallen Angels, which is an album titled by Bob Dylan from 2016, the second of Frank Sinatra covers. And Angel, and then we can have something like then Fallen Angel, a song titled by both Blue Oyster Cult on 1980's Cultosaurus Erectus and by Aladdin on 1985's Under a Raging Moon. And he sings in his lower range at the start of the song, and that makes it brilliant, because Under a Raging Moon is one of Aladdin's best albums in my mind. And then with Angel on its own, it's a song titled by The Following by Aerosmith on 1987's Permanent Vacation. It's also a song titled by Rod Stewart on 1972's Never a Dull Moment. And I think another 60s favourite Dairy album for me could be Rod Stewart and Old Raincoat Won't Ever Let You Down. And of course, I forgot to mention The Temptations, Meet the Temptations, and maybe The Soulful Moods of Marvin Gaye. And then Angel is also a song titled by Fleetwood Mac on 1979's Tusk. And then with Angel, we could have something like Angel Eyes by Roxy Music from 1979's Manifesto. And I think it was also an Art Garfunkel song as well. But that was Bright Eyes. And Bright Eyes also, there's another song titled by, I don't even know who else has a song called Bright Eyes. And whoever the artist is from Sweden, I am not even going to pretend that I even know that artist. Because I don't know that artist anyway who had those songs. And then with Angel, we have something like Angel of Harlem, which is a song titled by U2 on 1988's Rattle and Hum, celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, which makes it great, which is a great song. And there's a couple of other ones as well, but I mentioned a lot, so I'll go on to the last one, which is European Sun. And the European Sun could be like saying, take out Sun, we can have She's So European, a song titled by Kiss from the same record as Tomorrow, Unmasked. And it's kind of good. I like the bass in John Cale going boom, 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 and the guitar by Sterling Morrison or Lou Reed going down, 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 down. It kind of was ripped off by Blondie's One Way or Another from the same record as Sunday Girl, 1978's Parallel Lines, celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. And I already mentioned that Waiting for the Man is a complete rip-off to the Kinks' You Really Got Me. But yeah, this album is just a masterpiece of a record, and this album was ranked as the 13th greatest album by Rolling Stone, but kind of the 12th proper album in my opinion, because the 11th album is The Sun Sessions by Elvis, calling it the greatest compilation. So if you haven't heard this, I wouldn't even say go to Velvet Underground compilation, I would say go straight to this record because this is fantastic. So I'll leave that over there. And then the next album up is their second album, and it's 1968, White Light, White Heat, celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And there's the back. And the one thing I hate on the cover is basically that skull tattoo on someone's shoulder. But what I do like the most is the back cover of the band. And there's only 6 songs in this album because the longest track is 17 minutes. I'll talk about that when we get there. So we have White Light, White Heat, the title track, which is just amazing. And I like the white light go on is of my mind. And then the background singer's going, white light. I just think it's amazing. And the White Light, White Heat, of course, is amazing the way Lou Reed sings it. And we have The Gift, which is also a Lou Reed song as well, from 1976's Coney Island Baby. And The Gift is a spoken word song by John Cale. And I really like that a lot. And I like the music in the background as well. So yeah, The Gift is just a great song. Then we have Lady Godiva's Operation, which is an excellent song. And Lady Godiva is mentioned in the Queen song Don't Stop Me Now from 1978's Jazz, which is also celebrating 40 years this year. And then Jazz with 2 Z's. If you want to have 1 S there, we could have Jazz, which is short for Jasmine. Because remember, when you look at Jasmine, you've seen perfection. And then, what do you do after that? Because she is the best of women. And then other associations with Lady, and we could have Lady Jane by the Rolling Stones from the 1966 record Aftermath. Then we could have Blue-Eyed Lady by Status Quo on 1973's Hello. And then we could have Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands by Bob Dylan on 1966's Blonde on Blonde, and also mentioned in Sarah by Bob Dylan on 1976's Desire, with the staying up for days in the Chelsea Hotel writing Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands for you. And what else wants to have Lady in it? We of course have Lady Writer by Dire Straits from 1979's Communique. I mean, Lady Writer, one of the best Dire Straits songs ever of all time. And then we have, of course, Lady in Red by Krista Berg on 1986's Into the Light. And then we have... There's a couple of other ones with Lady in there as well. I'll think about those in the forthcoming videos or so. I'll let you know in the future. But then we have Here She Comes Now, which is a kind of a similar title to the There She Goes Again on the Velvet Underground Nico. And I already referenced She already. And then with Here She Comes Now, it could be nearly like saying, or as a matter of fact, on the There She Goes Again, it could be like saying, it can nearly be like saying, and Here She Comes Now, it could be like saying, She's Not Coming Back. And it's a song title by Leo Sayer from 1980's Living in a Fantasy. And I forgot to mention that in my Leo Sayer unboxing video because it's such a great song. And I forgot to mention the hit single on that as well, called More Than I Can Say, which was originally I think it was a Buddy Holly song originally. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was. Anyway, then we have I Heard Her Call My Name, which is a bit annoying, but the title Call My Name is also a song title by Cheryl Cole from her 2012 record A Million Lights Out, I believe, from 2012. But she looked like this on the cover. Yeah, and Cheryl Cole, a great looking woman. She's in the top 5 best looking celebrities by far. And with Call My Name, it could only be like saying Call Me. And it's a song titled by Blondie from 1980's Auto-American. Or even Call Me the Breeze by J.J. Cale on 1972's Naturally. And I think that one could be another one of my favourite 70s debut albums. And of course, the debut album of Dire Straits. And I'm not so sure about the debut album of Jackson Browne. I might like it in the future, who knows. So yeah, it's a good song. And then we finished up with Sister Ray. With Sister Ray, it's a very long song, and it was also on the Live in Italy live album by Lou Reed from 1984 there. And I mentioned it was one of the best epic songs of all time, and the best one of them by far is a tie between, I think the best one, over 20 minutes long, it's Genesis, Supper's Ready, from 1972's Foxtrot. And then with the sister in the title, we could have something like Oh Sister, which is a song title by Bob Dylan on 1976's Desire. And Desire is an absolute perfection album. And it's also, and with Sister, then we have Sister Disco, a song titled by Aladdin, Homer, Shrek and Wallace from 1978's Who Are You? One of the final proper albums to have Wallace playing drums, who would have, as he then lost one of his lives then 3 weeks later on September 7th, 1978, which was 6 days after Brian Ferry released The Bright Strip Bare, and then 11 days before the Kiss solo albums came out. And then with Ray there, we get something like Ray Gun, which was also a Thin Lizzy song on their 1971 self-titled debut. And when I was a Thin Lizzy fan at the time, that was actually one of my favorites because I liked the guitar playing by Eric Bell. See, that's the thing. Even if I'm not a fan of Thin Lizzy, it doesn't mean I don't love some of their music. It's just the final draft for me came in 2016 when I decided to stop listening to them altogether. But in the future, if I wanted to, I would just listen to the songs maybe on Spotify or whatever. So anyway, this is a great record. Very poor production, but still a great album. Right. So then, John Cale left the band, and he had a good solo career. And then, of course, he and Lou Reed would do the album Songs for Drella. Hold on, I'll just get out of the Lou Reed Original Album Classics volume, Original Album Series box set, sorry. Out of here for you. So, there you go. There's John Cale on the left, on the right even, sorry. Right there. And John Cale, in my mind, looks a bit like Stephen Gately from Boyzone there. So, just put that down. Right. And then John Cale also did a cover of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah from 1984's Various Positions. And it was in the original Shrek movie as well. Because once again, Shrek is the man on the bass, Wallace is the man on the drums, Homer is the man on guitar, and Aladdin is the man on vocals and of everything. It's insane. Because AHSW, the best band of all time. So then, Doug Yule comes in as John Cale's replacement, and then we get the self-titled Velvet Underground album, which is a great album in my opinion. And this has probably the most beautiful music ever on an album. So let's see. So we have a song on here. So let's see. We have Candy Says, and it was sung by Doug Yule, and he has a great voice. Candy Says could be like saying Lisa Says, and it's also a Lou Reed song as well on 1972's self-titled debut. One of my favourite 70s debut albums, along with Velvet Underground and Nico and everything else I've mentioned. And then with Candy, we have something like Candy's Room, and it's a song titled by Bruce Springsteen on 1978's Darkness on the Edge of Town. And it's celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, and that song was ripped off by the Stone Roses song She Bangs the Drums from their 1989 self-titled debut. And it's one of my favourite 80s debut albums, along with Phil Collins' Face Value, U2 Boy, the self-titled debut of The Smiths, Robert Plant, Pictures at 11, Sting, The Dream of the Blue Turtles, Mike Rutherford, Small Creeps Day, and maybe the debut record of Mike and the Mechanics. And perhaps another one of my favourite 70s debut albums could be Paul McCartney, Wildlife. And another one could be Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, the Traveling Wilburys debut album, R.E.M. Murmur, the Vinnie Vincent Invasion self-titled, and also Tanita Tikram, Ancient Heart. And maybe the first album of New Order. I forget the name of the album, but I know it would have been that debut album by New Order. So anyway, great song, Candy Says. And then even Candy's Boy by Bruce Springsteen on the 2010 compilation, At The Promise, which is a very angelic Bruce Springsteen song. Then we have What Goes On, which is also a great song as well. Lou Reed's vocals on that are just outstanding, and What Goes On is also a song titled by the Beatles from 1965's Rubber Soul, sung by Ringo. Not many people liked that song, but I thought it was a very good song. And What Goes On was also in the Joy Division biographical film Control, which is basically named after She's Lost Control from the Unknown Pleasures album, one of my favourite 70s debut albums, along with Lou Reed's debut album and everything else I've mentioned from the 70s. And I have to be honest with you, Control is a very good movie. It's worth checking out, although it is for 15s and there is swearing, and once again, there goes my telephone. So yeah, What Goes On, classic song. Then we have Some Kind of Love, which is also a great song, and it's a bit of a similar title of Some Kind of Wonderful. And it's a song titled by Grand Funk Railroad from their 1974 record, All the Girls in the World Beware, which could have been, I think, January 1975. So yeah, it's a great song. And then we have Pale Blue Eyes. Pale Blue Eyes is just a magical song. And the tambourine by Maureen Tucker on that is just amazing. And then perhaps with Blue Eyes, we could change it with, well, first of all, we want to have other ones with eyes there. We can have something like Faraway Eyes, a song titled by the Rolling Stones from 1978's Some Girls. And then we could have Lion Eyes by the Eagles from 1975's One of These Nights. And we could also have Angel Eyes by, I already referenced Angel Eyes by Roxy Music. And then we could also have Bright Eyes by Art Garfunkel. And then Bright Eyes by that Swedish group who I do not know the name of, and I'm not even going to pretend that I even know that artist. And then of course with Blue Eyes, we could have Old Blue Eyes, which is the nickname of Frank Sinatra. And then we could have Behind Blue Eyes, a song titled by Aladdin, Homer, Shrek and Wallace from 1971's Who's Next? Which is one of the most melodic songs ever, but then it goes into the heavier guitar distortion then when the whole band kicks in. And Behind Blue Eyes had also been covered by Limp Bizkit as well. So yeah, Pale Blue Eyes, magical song. I think I might do a cover of that song now on my YouTube channel with my new guitar if I get the chance, so I'll have a think about it. But then we have Jesus, which is one of my least favourites, which is probably my least favourite on the album, but still a good song. And Jesus is also a song titled by Queen from their 1973 self-titled debut, one of my favourite 70s debut albums, along with everything else I've mentioned. And other ones with Jesus, we have something like Jesus, He Knows Me, and it's a song titled by Genesis from 1991's We Can't Dance. So yeah, great song that is. Then we have Beginning to See the Light, which is a pretty good song, and See the Light is a song title in the Disney movie Tangled. And Tangled is one of my favourite Disney movies, and Rapunzel is definitely the best looking blonde princess. And of course, my favourite blonde princess, and probably my third, fourth, or fifth favourite female character of all time. Because who's the favourite? Do I need to spell her name out again? No, because I've mentioned her already loads of times in this video, so if you want to scroll back a few minutes on this video, listen to her name. Because everyone knows it's Jasmine. And then with Beginning, we had something like In the Beginning, and it's a song titled by Genesis from Genesis Revelation, which could also be another favourite 60s debut album for me. And then we could have From the Beginning, which is a compilation album by the Small Faces, right there. And I think it's in other ones as well, but I can't remember. But I'll let you know in the future. So yeah, it's a pretty good song. And then we have I'm Set Free. I'm Set Free is just beautiful. And basically with Set Free, we could be like saying Set Me Free. And it's a song titled by The Kinks from 1965's Kinda Kinks. And then we could take out Set and have I'm Free, and it's a song titled by Aladdin, Homer, Shrek and Wallace from 1969's Tommy. And the funny thing was, in the movie of Tommy, where Aladdin got nearly drowned in the water, and then he was swimming, and then he ended up singing the song while he was running, and basically his running was so brilliant. It's like if he ran on the beach, and then if he jumped into the sea, everybody on the beach would just clap, because we're celebrating our hero. We're celebrating my hero anyway. And then with Free there, we have Free Me, which is a song titled by Free on their 1969 self-titled second album. And Free Me is also a song titled by Aladdin on 1980's McVicker. And it's actually an album titled by Emma Bunton from the Spice Girls. I think it's her first or second solo album. I could be wrong, but I need to read back on it again. So yeah, I'm Set Free. Beautiful song. Then we have The Story of My Life, which is okay. Not one of my favourites, but Story of My Life is a song titled by, I can't remember who had it, but it is very familiar with the Story of My Life. It's very catchy. I can't remember who had that song title, but I'll let you know in the future. But then, with My Life, it's a song titled by Billy Joel from 1978's 52nd Street, which is celebrating 40 years this year. And then with My Life, we could have In My Life, song titles by the following: The Beatles from Rubber Soul, covered by Rod Stewart on 1986's Every Beat in My Heart, and In My Life by Barclay James Harris from 1975's Time Under Ghosts, and by Leo Sayer from 1974's Just a Boy, or even In My Secret Life by Leonard Cohen from 2001's 10 New Songs. One of the most perfectionist Leonard Cohen songs ever. Because 10 New Songs is a perfection album. And it's definitely just magnificent. And then with Story Of, we can have something like Stories of the Street, a song titled by Leonard Cohen from 1967's Songs of Leonard Cohen, which is one of my favourite 60s debut albums, with The Velvet Underground and Nico and everything else I've mentioned. But yeah, it's just a fine song, that one. Then we have The Murder Mystery, which features co-lead vocals from all the members as well. And I don't really care for that song. I don't really care for that song either, but it's alright. And with Murder, we could have something like Meet Us Murder. We could have maybe Murder Incorporated by Bruce Springsteen, recorded during the Born USA sessions, and he was going to call that album Murder Incorporated, but he changed his mind and just called it Born USA. And then we could have Murder as in Meet Us Murder, a album titled by the Smiths, which is one of the best albums of all time. And How Soon Is Now, which is my favourite Smiths song, isn't even on the album, and that's a shame, because it's my favourite Smiths song. And then with Mystery, we can have something like Mystery. Well, we first off have Mystery Girl by Roy Orbison, the album title, and then it's Mystery for the It's a Mystery to Me, or She's a Mystery to Me, featuring Bono from U2 and The Edge on instruments. And then we could also have Mystery Train by Elvis, and then covered by the band on 1973's Moondog Matinee, and by Neil Young on 1983's Everybody's Rockin'. And then we have other ones with mystery in it as well. We could probably have It's a Mystery, a song and album titled by Bob Seger, one of the greatest albums of all time in my opinion. Although it was his lowest selling album with the E Street Band. Sorry, not E Street Band, Silver Bullet Band. But anyway, Murder Mystery, it's okay. And then we finish up with After Hours, sung by Maureen Tucker, and I don't really enjoy it that much, but it's okay. With Take Out Hours and put in Matt there, we get Aftermath, the album titled by the Rolling Stones, and then we could have maybe Afterglow, song titles by both Genesis from 1976's Wind and Wuthering, or 1977 even, and then Afterglow by the Small Faces from 1968's Ogden's Not Gone Flake, which celebrated its 50th anniversary this year. And there is a couple of other ones with that same time as well, but I'm not sure. And then with Hours, we can have 48 Hours, which is a song titled by The Clash from their 1977 self-titled debut. It's a good debut album, and one of my favourites, along with everything else I've mentioned. And 48 Hours represents 2 days. And 48 Hours is also mentioned in the Aladdin song Days of Life with the Friday days waiting at the gates of heaven. The weekend starts at 7. We get 48 hours of fun, which makes it amazing. Because Days of Life could have been used in the Aladdin movie because it came off Rocks in the Head, which is the best album of all time because it came out in the same year when the Aladdin movie came out. And yeah, this is a great album. Probably my second favourite Velvet Underground album. This is also worth checking out if you haven't heard this yet. And then finally finishing up here with the Velvet Underground, here we are. This is Loaded from 1970, and it's not remastered or anything, it's the older version of it. There you go. And the other 2 albums there are ranked on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time. I don't know which numbers they're at, but I know this one, I believe, is 110. I think this is between the Rolling Stones Out of Our Heads and David Bowie Hunky Dory. See, that's the thing, I don't know the whole list now. I only know the top 100 off by heart by Rolling Stones, so I can't really say what number each one is. So anyway, and Maureen Tucker left due to her maternity leave. And Lou Reed left during the recording of this album, but he is on some of these songs. So let's see, so we have Who Loves the Sun, which is a very good song, and it's sung by Doug Yule. And Who Loves the Sun could be like saying Into the Sun, which is a song titled by Grand Funk Railroad from 1969's On Time, which could be another one of my favourite 60s debut albums, even though when I'm planning to do the Grand Funk Railroad Trunk of Funk unboxing videos. So I'll do those ones. And then then with Who Loves the Song, we could have something like Waiting for the Sun. Now if I got to reference that on Waiting for the Man. So Waiting for the Sun, there is an album titled by The Doors, celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, even though the title track is on Morrison Hotel. And that's happened for a couple of songs. Like, for example, Leo Sayer, Have You Ever Been in Love? The title track is on World Radio, not on the album 1983 record of the same name. And there's also the same for Led Zeppelin, House of the Holy, where the title track is on Physical Graffiti, and also Marvin Gaye, That's the Way Love Is, and it's on 1969's MPG. The initials of Marvin Gaye's name, Marvin Pence Gaye. And then, yeah, it's a pretty good song, I like it. Then we have Sweet Jane, which is another excellent song. I already referenced Jane already, like with Lady Jane by the Stones. And then we could also have My Blue-Eyed Jane by Jimmy Rogers, and then Bob Dylan covering that on Jimmy Rogers' tribute album. And then with Sweet, there we could have something like Sweet Caroline, which was a song titled by Status Quo from 1973's Hello, and then of course a song titled by Neil Diamond, one of his most classic songs ever of all time. And I already referenced Sweet from Sweet Black Angel by the Rolling Stones on Exile on Main Street. And Sweet Jane is also referenced in the Lou Reed song Give Me Some Good Times from 1978 Street Hassle, which is also celebrating 40 years this year. And yet again, it was 2 years ago today when I did that video and I talked about Street Hassle. And yeah, Sweet Jane is just great, and Lou Reed has definitely played it live. So yeah, Sweet Jane, love the song. Then we have Rock and Roll, which is also a awesome song as well. Rock and Roll is also an album titled by John Lennon, and well, from 1975, and then song titles by the following: Status Quo from 1980's Just Supposing, and Led Zeppelin's Zeppelin 4, and what other ones with rock and roll in there as well? We could have maybe Rock and Roll Suicide by David Bowie from 1972 Ziggy Stardust, by Grand Funk Railroad on 1972's Phoenix, then Rock and Roll Star by both Oasis from 1994's Definitely Maybe, which is probably one of my favourite 90s debut albums ever, along with the following: Mark Knopfler, Golden Heart, Sublime Freedom to Oz, and quite possibly Radiohead, Pablo Honey, and maybe the first album of Blur, and perhaps the Blue album by Weezer, and maybe, I don't have it in my collection at the moment, but maybe the debut record of Paul Weller. And then Rock and Roll Star, a song titled by Barclay James Harris from 1976's Octoberon. And we also have maybe Rock and Roll Music by Chuck Berry, and then covered by the Beatles from 1964's Beatles for Sale. And then we could also have Rock and Roll Never Forgets by Bob Seger from 1976's Night Moves. And I think there are a couple of other rock and rolls in there as well. Oh yeah, Rock and Roll Lady by Barclay James Harris from 1979's Eyes of the Universe, and then Rock and Roll Woman by Barclay James Harris, which was, it's not an album, but it's a very good song. So yeah, Rock and Roll, great song. Oh yeah, and then of course, Rock and Roll Over, the album title by Kiss. And then we could also have let me think. Rock and Roll. Oh, I can't really remember the Rock and Roll. What other ones there was with Rock and Roll? Maybe. Oh, I'll come back to it in a moment. But then but just to keep rock there, we could have something like Let It Rock, which is a song titled by Chuck Berry and covered by Bob Seger live. And it's also a song titled by Bon Jovi from 1986's Slippery When Wet. And other ones with rock in, we get something like Rock With You, a song titled by Michael Jackson from 1979's Off the Wall, and then Rock and Roll, and then other ones, and then Rock Me Baby by Peter Criss on his 1976 solo Kiss album. And there's also, and there's a couple of other ones there, but then with Roll, we could have something like Let the Good Times Roll by the Cars from their 1978 self-titled debut, one of my favourite 70s debut albums, along with everything else I've mentioned. And then maybe Roll Over, Lay Down by Status Quo in 1978 Slow. And then also Roll Over Beethoven by Chuck Berry, then covered by both the Beatles from 1963's With the Beatles, celebrating 55 years this year, along with the White Album, celebrating 50 this year, and covered by Electric Light Orchestra from 1973's ELO 2, my favourite early Electric Light Orchestra album. And then other ones with a title in there. That's all I can think of at the moment. I'll come back in the forthcoming videos and let you know if I missed anything. Right. Oh yeah, I forgot. Let Me Go Rock and Roll. Song titled by Kiss from 1974's Harder Than Hell. Completely forgot about that one. And then we have Cool It Down, which is also a really good song. And basically that's to let food cool down if it's hot. Because that was one bit of advice my aunt gave me, basically by saying, let it cool down and cut it into smaller pieces, so that way you'll get the real taste. And then with It on its own, it's a song titled by Genesis from 1974's Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. And then there's a couple of other ones, and Lou Reed sings on Cool It Down with and I like his vocals there. Somebody took the big bucks. I just find it very amazing. He sings it great, and he also sounds like Bob Dylan as well, because Lou Reed covered Foot of Pride at the Bob Dylan 30th anniversary concert, and Foot of Pride comes off, well, it was recorded during the Infidel sessions, once again featuring Mick Taylor from the Rolling Stones, who would also play on Real Live by Bob Dylan, and also who would perform some of the songs on Empire Burlesque by Bob Dylan, and also featuring the legend Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. In that year, Mark Knopfler brought out Local Hero, which was his first soundtrack album, and Local Hero is also a Bruce Springsteen song from Lucky Town in 1992, and also, like saying, Vocal Hero on the Aladdin TV show, which was the 58th episode. Once again, the Aladdin TV show, my number one favourite TV show of all time, and it's actually one of my favourite episodes on the show. And it's pretty good. So then, the next one is New Age, which is quite good. New Age is also mentioned in the Bob Dylan song The Groom's Still Waiting at the Altar from 1981's Shot of Love. And with New on its own is a is an album titled by Paul McCartney from 2013, which was released in the year when Lou Reed had tragically left us. And now, of course, Paul McCartney brought out Egypt Station from 2018. And then with Age, we could have something like Ice Age, which was a movie franchise, which is a very good movie franchise in my opinion. And then with New, we can have like New Adventures in Hi-Fi by R.E.M. from 1996. And then we could have something like, and there's a couple of other ones with New in it as well. So anyway, New Age is pretty good. But then Head Held High is pretty good as well, but Lou Reed's vocals on that, in my opinion, are very annoying. And Head Held High are all forms of alliteration. And then with Head, Head is also a song title. Head is also an album title by the Monkees from 1968, which is for the soundtrack to the movie Head. And Head is celebrating 50 years this year. And then with Head, we could have Rocks in the Head, an album title by Aladdin from 1992, which was released in the same year as the movie. That's why Rocks in the Head is my favourite Aladdin solo album and my favourite album of all time. And let's see. And then other ones we could have Can't Get It Out of My Head by Electric Light Orchestra from 1974's El Dorado. And then with High in there, we could have like High on a Horse by Grand Funk Railroad in 1969's On Time. And then we could have perhaps High Water by both Bob Dylan from 2001's Love and Theft, which is definitely one of Bob Dylan's most angelic songs of all time. And There Goes My Doorbell. And then High Water is also a song titled by Rush from 1987's Hold Your Fire, or even Hell or High Water by Kiss from 1987's Crazy Nights. And there's a couple of other ones in there as well. But yeah, Head Held High, not one of my favourites. But then we have Lonesome Cowboy Bill, which I think is even better. And it's very cowboy-esque music, and the same for some of the songs on Neil Young's Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. And with Lonesome in there, we have something like The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll, which is a song titled by Bob Dylan from 1964's Time Started Changing. And we could have Lonesome Day by Bob Dylan from 2001's Love and Theft, and by Bruce Springsteen on 2002's The Rising, in the wake of the September 11 attacks. And Lonesome Whistle Blues by Hank Williams, and then Bob Dylan covering it, and then me covering it on the YouTube channel as well. And maybe Oh Lonesome Me by Neil Young from 1970s After the Gold Rush. And there's a couple of other ones with Lonesome in there as well. Oh yeah, I'm a Lonesome Hobo by Bob Dylan from 1967's John Wesley Harding. So that's all I can think of with Lonesome in there. And then with Cowboy, we could have like Cowboy Song by Tin Lizzy from 1976's Jailbreak. And that's actually one of the better songs on the Jailbreak album. And then with Bill, we could have Big Bad Bill is Sweet William Now by Van Halen from 1982's Diver Down, the most criticised album of the David Lee Roth years. I'll actually get the album for you just to be sure. If I can find it now. Where is Diver Down? Here. There it is. You can see Big Bad Bill on the album there. Where did I get it now? There. Right. Lonesome Cowboy Bill is pretty good. Then we have I Found a Reason, which is a very good song as well. I Found a Reason could be like saying I'm looking for a reason. And it's a song titled by Creedence Clearwater Revival on 1972's Mardi Gras. I mean, Creedence Clearwater Revival. One of the greatest artists of all time. And that is a disastrous final album. And Creedence don't have any disastrous albums because in my opinion, they're one of the only bands that don't have any bad songs. Well, some of the songs on Pendulum might be a bit dodgy for me, like the last two songs, like Molina and Rude Awakening #2. And I Found a Reason. With Reason there, it's also a song titled by Leo Sayer, which he recorded during Silverbird sessions, and also covered by Aladdin on 1973's self-titled album, which is probably my favourite 70s debut album. I'll actually get Aladdin's 1973 record for you, just to be sure. Hold on, I just need to cover that title. So there's Aladdin's 1973 record there for you. The best 70s debut album in my opinion. Right. And then Reason, we could have like saying Reason for Living, which is a song titled by Status Quo, 1973's Hello, and also Reason to Live by Kiss from 1987's Crazy Nights. And it's my favourite track on the Crazy Nights album, and once again, Crazy Nights, my favourite non-makeup Kiss album. And I Found a Reason, and then for the song itself, it's alright, not one of my favourites. And Train Round the Bend is a bit annoying as well. And Train Round the Bend, like saying that train roaring around the bend. And it's a song, and it's mentioned in the Bruce Springsteen song, Better Days. The opening track on 1992's Lucky Town. And Train on its own is a song titled by Leo Sayer on 1974's Just a Boy. And maybe think of Night Train by Guns N' Roses on 1987's Appetite for Destruction. And then maybe think of Big Train by Booker